Hey there and welcome back to NBA 2K18's MyLEAGUE mode. My name is Pete and today we complete the first games of 2019, and after already talking about it in the last episode, we will also complete our first roster move in this episode. Also, thank you guys for your comments on the last video, both regarding contract extensions and trade scenarios. Those were once again very helpful and you guys always mention things that I never really think about. Now, before we make any moves, let's get the first games of 2019 behind us. We have a rather relaxed week here to start us off with a game against the Hawks, and then 2 days later we host the Celtics. Now, we actually already faced the Hawks in the last episode and lost that one, and you can see the result here on screen. And the Hawks have actually won 6 of the last 10 games and are now close on our heels in the Eastern Conference. However, in our efforts to stay ahead of them in the East, we comfortably beat them this time and secure ourselves a nice 32-point victory. Richardson leads all scorers with 21 points in 28 minutes, shooting an efficient 8 of 12 from the field, while Kuzma adds 15 with 6 rebounds and Gomez adds 14 and 9. We are now on a 4-game win streak, but before we get into the game against the Celtics, we can see on the right side in the social media tab that the races for the season awards, like the MVP for example, have started now, so let's have a quick look at those. Leading the MVP race is once again James Harden, who actually won the award last year, while Luka Doncic unsurprisingly leads the Rookie of the Year vote. Interesting to see here is that Mohamed Bamba actually comes in at number 5, so while he might not win the Rookie of the Year award, he still has a very high chance of being selected into one of the All-Rookie teams. Teodosic currently leads the race for 6th Man of the Year, while Rudy Gobert looks to win back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards. Leading the vote for Most Improved Player is a guy that was almost out of the league in 2016, playing only 11 games that season, Jared Sullinger. His real-life counterpart has actually signed a contract in China in the meantime, while the 2K Jared Sullinger has bounced back big time, currently averaging a double-double with 11 points and 12 rebounds per game. And with those 12 rebounds per game, he is actually among the league leaders in rebounding. Now we will get back to the award races later in the season, probably around the All-Star break, but for now let's focus on the matchup with the Celtics. One thing we should mention about the Celtics is that they're currently missing Jaylen Brown for the rest of the season, who after just 29 games ruptured his left Achilles. Maybe because of that, but probably also because of their lack of depth in the frontcourt, the Celtics are currently only 1 spot ahead of us in the Eastern Conference, and should we win the next game, we can actually swap places with them. And in fact, we make it 5 wins in a row as we beat the Celtics in Louisville 108-90. Leading us in scoring, once again, Josh Richardson with 19 points, including 5 3-pointers, while Harkless, Farrell, Ulis, Gomez and Hood all had double-digit scoring performances as well. And Mo Bamba in his new role as the starter seems to be comfortable as well, barely missing his second season double-double here with 8 points and 10 rebounds. And with our new 17-21 record, we have in fact moved past the Boston Celtics, as we now occupy rank number 12 in the Eastern Conference. Now, the plan was to actually make some moves at this point, but they do say never change a running system, so let's try and extend that 5-game win streak in our next game against the Denver Nuggets. And very fittingly, the streak also comes to an end in this game, as we fall to the Nuggets in Denver 118-103. Our best performer was Kyle Kuzma in this game, who came off the bench to score 18 points and grab 7 rebounds in only 20 minutes of action. But I also quickly want to mention Josh Richardson, who once again filled the stat sheet with 14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 steals and 3 blocks. Now we could make our moves at this point, but we have started the week already, so let's finish it as well. We have only 2 more games to go, 1 against the Rockets and 1 against the Pistons. Against the Rockets then we lose at home 110-95, and only one guy really stood out in this game, and his name is once again Kyle Kuzma, who only missed a single shot from the field to finish the game with 20 points in 19 minutes. Against the Pistons then we turned things around and put an end to the 2-game losing streak, finally winning a game again 124-114. And guess who led the team in scoring again? That is right, Kyle Kuzma, once again only missing a single shot from the field, finishing with 16 points, 5 rebounds and 2 assists, also with no turnovers in 18 minutes of action. Rashad Vaughn, Josh Richardson and Mo Bamba all added 15 points each, while Yogi Ferrell had 14 to go along with 6 assists. Rodney Hood had a quiet and not overly efficient performance with 13 points, 3 rebounds and a steal, And Bryce Johnson also added 12 points and 4 rebounds coming off the bench. And now, with the trade deadline only about 1 month away, I think we can slowly start making our first moves. Now, I admit I've actually never spent this much time thinking about which moves to make. In the comments section, most of you were in favor of dealing away Omer Harkless, and I agree that that is a very solid option, but we also had quite a few comments more in favor of trading away Hernangomez, and I think there is an argument to be made here as well. Another thing that was discussed and that I largely agree with is that packaging in Abrines with whatever move we decide to make eventually is probably a good idea, as Abrines is out of the rotation entirely at the moment and he's also on an expiring contract. Now at this point, before we make the final decision on who to trade, I think it is actually a very good idea to first think about who or what we want to acquire in return. One idea that has been flowing around for a few weeks now is a more defensive-minded point guard, and a name that has come up quite a lot is DeJounte Murray from the San Antonio Spurs. Now, Murray is certainly an interesting player, and while I personally was not too fascinated with his defensive abilities, I agree that he should still be able to do a serviceable job on that end. However, at the moment I don't really see the Spurs parting ways with Murray, especially not considering his huge potential to eventually take over Tony Parker's spot in the rotation, and also especially not in exchange for the players we have to offer. In the case of Harkless, by the way, they don't even have the cap space to actually trade for him. Apart from Murray, there are really not that many alternatives. Dante Exum was another name that was floating around, but he has just signed a large 3-year contract extension with the Jazz, and once again, neither Harkless nor Hernangomez are players that the Jazz desperately need. So instead I thought, well, let's maybe grab ourselves a draft pick instead, and if we have a look at this year's draft class, one thing becomes quite obvious very early on. The draft class is pretty top heavy, with McLeod, Delk, Strong, Mitchell, Booth and maybe Flanders being the top players, and apart from that there's really not that much worth drafting. Additionally, 3 of those players, Chris Delk, Josh Mitchell and Chris Booth, fill positions that we don't really have a need for at the moment, with the small forward at the center, leaving only McLeod and Strong as point guard options and Flanders as an interesting idea for the shooting guard. Now, one thing that has to be said here is that with our current record, we will very likely not end up in a position where we can draft one of these guys. Therefore, we would have to acquire a top 5 pick in the trade, and that is still a very risky business. McLeod is pretty much the consensus number 1 pick and will be gone with the first pick no matter what, while Strong could realistically go anywhere between 2 and 5, so simply having a top 5 pick does not make him a guarantee. Now, Flanders might be an interesting backup option here, one that could likely still be available even if we only get the 5th pick. But all of this is of course only based on the very risky prediction regarding which team will in the end be bad enough to actually acquire a top 5 pick. Still, it might be a risk worth taking, because I would rather have an early first round pick that we might end up trading again because we can't really use it with all the talent being already off the board, instead of having a late first round pick that will definitely not turn out to be anything of value. Now let me show you a few actual trade offers to illustrate what I mean. For a package of Omer Harkless and Alex Abrines, we could acquire Miles Plumlee from the Hawks. Plumlee is currently the 4th center on the Hawks team, stuck behind 3 other guys in the rotation, while he is still on a 2-year contract worth about $25 million. Now, it is safe to say that this is a contract they would love to unload, and if we give them Harkless and Abrines in exchange, they are also willing to part ways with Cleveland's first round pick, which they own, the 2019 first rounder, which is top 10 protected. That pick, however, is also guaranteed to go very late in the first round, 25th at best I think, with potential to also go dead last. Now, the Hawks also have another pick here they would be willing to part ways with, and that is Minnesota's 2019 first rounder. However, the case is pretty much the same here. Minnesota actually has a better record than the Cavs at the moment, and so the pick would once again go very late in the first round. The only pick that would go a lot higher than that is Atlanta's own pick, but sadly, even with a lottery protection, the Hawks are not willing to part ways with that. Now, if we're planning to take on bad contracts in exchange for draft picks, we can't really look past the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans actually have 2 players who could be considered grossly overpaid. The first one is Omer Asik, who is stuck behind 2 other guys as the 3rd man in the center rotation, with an $11 million contract and a $12 million player option coming up. The other guy is Solomon Hill, who is currently more or less forced to start at the small forward, but would probably be better off coming off the bench, and who also has 2 years left on his contract worth about $26 million. At the same time, this already demonstrates a high need for a starting caliber small forward in New Orleans, which brings me to the next step. We will offer the Pelicans the following package. On the player side, we will exchange Maurice Harkless for Omer Asik. The Pelicans would get rid of their most atrocious contract on the roster, while at the same time acquiring some much-needed help at the small forward. Their cap space situation would remain pretty much the same, as Harkless's and Asik's salaries for the next year are pretty much identical. And on the draft pick side, we acquire the Pelicans' 2019 first rounder. However, the move is not that straightforward, as we will actually do a pick swap with the Pelicans. In that pick swap, we of course get the upper hand, earning the right to swap the worst of either our or the Pelicans pick back to New Orleans. That means whichever pick lands higher in the draft lottery will be ours, while the other one goes back to the Pelicans. And that worst of the two picks is more or less guaranteed to be the Pelicans one, as New Orleans currently has the 4th worst record in the Western Conference and also in the entire NBA. Whether or not that pick eventually ends up being a top 5 pick, and most importantly whether or not it ends up being useful for us, remains to be seen, but if it doesn't, we can simply use it to maybe facilitate another trade. From the Pelicans' perspective, the draft pick actually doesn't hold that much value. Like I said, the draft class is somewhat limited, and with both Jrue Holiday and most importantly Anthony Davis on long-term contracts, the Pelicans are in a position right now where they should probably focus more on building through free agency than building through the draft. For us, on the other hand, making that pick swap could mean the difference between acquiring a young building block for the future and acquiring another player who just barely makes it through training camp. So for our first trade of the 2018-19 season, we will move Maurice Harkless to the New Orleans Pelicans in exchange for Omer Asik, including the right to swap picks with the Pelicans in the upcoming draft. And the Pelicans agreed to the trade, and we now have a large amount of minutes freed up in our rotation. Now to get us started, of course, Omer Asik will not get any minutes in the new rotation. We simply have too many talented centers ahead of him. Instead, the 20 minutes that we just freed up will be spent between the guys who are already part of the rotation. And starting us out is Kyle Kuzma, who will see his minutes increase from 20 to 25 minutes a game, switching into a more prominent role as a 6th man off the bench. Both Richardson and Hood get their minutes bumped up slightly from 28 to 32, while Hernangomez also sees his minutes rise to 25, and the remaining 2 minutes are split evenly between Bryce Johnson and Deontay Davis, who both now see 19 instead of 18 minutes per game. And with that move and the rotation adjustments behind us, let's move into the 3rd week of January, featuring games against the Wizards, the Magic, and interestingly enough also against the Pelicans. And against the Wizards we improve our record further, securing regular season win number 19, squeezing by in Washington 84 to 83. Tyler Ulis and Bryce Johnson led the team in scoring with 14 points each, while Rodney Hood added 13 points to go along with 7 rebounds, and Deontay Davis had himself a formidable double-double with 10 points, 11 rebounds and also 4 blocks in only 19 minutes of playing time. Before we then get to our game against the Pelicans, we are being informed that Briante Weber can no longer remain with us on his 2-way contract, as he now has to return to the G League. And since our roster is full at the moment, we also cannot sign him to a regular contract for the remainder of the season. And so we have no other choice really but to send him back down to the G League. Up next, the game against the Pelicans is even more important now that we have a chance at the draft pick, because of course, since we get the worst of the 2 picks, we want the Pelicans' record for this season to be as bad as possible. And I promise I only played the 4th quarter of this game, but it was probably the most dominant Louisville Legionnaires victory to date, as we absolutely destroy the Pelicans with a final score of 131 to 84. In total, as you can see here, we had 8 players score in double digits tonight, and in garbage time we even got some production out of our bench players who normally don't get minutes, like Alex Abrinas, Joe Chi and Cheick Diallo. Last game of the week now against the Orlando Magic, and this one actually came down to the wire. With 10 seconds left, we're down by 2. The ball goes to Hernangomez, who has a 1-on-1 against Nerlens Noel, but despite 2 shot fakes, Noel never bites, plays good defense, and we don't get the basket. And with that, we wrap up the week with a loss against the Magic, going down 108 to 106. Richardson finished with a game-high 28 points, shooting a ridiculous 12 of 14 from the field, while Rodney Hood had 18 points, including 5 3-pointers, and Ulis and Vaughn added 16 and 11 respectively. And so, another episode with the Louisville Legionnaires comes to an end. We made our first move today in an effort to clear the logjam at small forward and also to increase our chances to build through the draft, and I think despite taking on the bad contract of Omer Asik, that move will eventually pay off when we come to the draft lottery. Next time we may or may not find a suitable trade partner for Alex Abrines, and as always leave your ideas for that in the comments below, but keep in mind this will be a rather low profile move. For today we once again did not complete that many games, but the first trade of our season certainly demanded a bit of extra attention. In the next episode we will then likely move past the trade deadline, and we will of course also take care of the contract extensions. Until then, as always, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed the episode, and of course if you want to support the channel then click on subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!